Hi, my name's John Campbell, and I've written a little book called The Secret of Intimate Relationships, which the feedback I'm getting from people all over the world is that it's put a light on in their lives and explains so much about their relationship history, their life, not just their intimate romantic relationship, but some of their relationships at work. And I wanted to take the opportunity to share with you some of these concepts because obviously the biggest decision we make in our life is the choice of our intimate romantic partner, and the more we can find out and enlighten ourselves about this process, the better chance we have of succeeding. And everybody wants to succeed in a happy, joyous and free relationship. Okay, so if you think about your relationships for a minute, just now while you're watching this, and consider how they went, what happened, how it was and how it is now, I wonder if you can see any pattern evolving. Was there something where you'd get into a relationship and, at the beginning, like it always is, we can't get enough of that other person and we see no faults and it's all very, very honeymoon period, I call it. And then after a while, things maybe not go so well and things start to happen and eventually, and that could take years, but eventually you can get to a point where you think, no, I've had enough of this, I want to get out of here. And you make that big decision, and it is a very big decision, and you get out of the relationship, and then you might wait some time, or you might just say you're not going to get into a relationship at all. But when you do eventually, if you do eventually, you get into a new relationship, which starts off the same way, it's full of buzz and excitement, and everything seems great. And then after a little while, suddenly you notice the same traits or situations that you disliked in your previous relationship seem to be emerging in this one. And that's a very, very common factor. And I'd like to tell you that in my book I explain exactly why that happens. And it can happen not only, as I said, in your intimate relationship, it can happen in work relationships. So you might leave a company or a business, or you might leave a workplace because of some kind of boss or some superior or a colleague, and you go into the new one, and very soon after you get in there, you'll find a similar type of person is showing up in a different body. So have you ever had that experience? And it might be something you want to dwell on. People say to me, am I qualified to write a book about relationships? Do I have a perfect relationship? Well, the reason I feel qualified is because I've kind of been there, done it, and got the t-shirt. And I've had to learn the hard way what relationships are for, their purpose, and how to make the best of them and enjoy them so that you're enjoying life as a happy, joyous and free person. And what happened in my situation was I seemed to attract partners in my life that weren't available in one way or another, or were not quite as crazy about me as I was about them. That was the one that seemed to repeat in my life. And the whole issue of that, eventually, I had to untangle and find out what was going on and what made me do that. Because that was creating a lot of pain in my life and a lot of pain for the other people involved as well. My journey of finding a solution to these challenges was, first of all, I had to start becoming consciously aware of how I felt. What did I feel? How did I feel in any given moment? Because I'd actually squashed my feelings. I didn't know what I felt, through work, through alcohol, prescribed medication. All of these things actually dampened down my feelings. And my feelings, I didn't realize at the time, are my internal guidance system. So it's my feelings that are telling me what's best for me. And I wasn't too in touch with those. So one of the first things I had to do was to really let go of things that were blocking access to my intuition and to my feelings. And that was quite a challenge in itself. However, when I did, I started to notice that when I listened to my feelings and I identified my feelings, I started to get clearer pictures of what I wanted in life, in my relationships, in my work, which was unattached to the opinion of other people. Because that was the biggest problem I had. I spent more of my time wanting to please everybody else and forgot about what I wanted. And that was a big challenge for me. It took me a long time. And it's always, it's work in progress. I'm not saying that I've got there yet, but at least I've got the awareness. And that's the part which I want to help pass on to other people. Yeah, and one of the big things I had to learn was what was the purpose of intimate romantic relationships. Because, we're sold some really good stories about that. We see the movies where the couple meet and go off into the sunset and everything's happy ever after, and a lot of, romanticism is attached to relationships. What I eventually found out was that relationships are actually a healing tool. Intimate relationships are a means, and not the only means, but I've found they are the surest means of healing our misperceptions about ourselves and often our childhood wounds, for want of a better word. And if a couple get to the stage where they both accept that that's the purpose, and if they do have the chemistries required, which I talk about in my book, which are essential for a long-term relationship to succeed, two chemistries, one which is sexual chemistry and the other which I call best friend chemistry. If they've got those two, it doesn't matter if they may have been dampened down over the years, but if they can come to the understanding of the challenges are there for them to overcome, and the reason is, the fact is, they haven't yet forgiven past occurrences in their lives. And unconsciously, what we haven't forgiven, we're going to re-attract in our lives. There's a line in that wonderful book, A Course in Miracles, that says, "Trials are but lessons we failed to learn, presented once again. So where we made a faulty choice, we can make a better choice and so avoid the pain and sorrow the previous choice created for us." And that's very, very powerful. And the better choice each time is forgiveness. Whatever we haven't forgiven in our lives, we are going to meet recreations of that person or the situation in order to give us a chance to do the forgiveness work. And it's a big subject. Forgiveness on its own is a big subject. Forgiveness has to be learned. It's not a natural thing. And it's a special type of forgiveness, which, if practiced, eases out all the challenges that we have and takes away the disturbance to our peace of mind. Most people, including myself, are quite shocked when they realize that their troublesome relationships often resemble one of their parents or both of their parents. And there's a reason for that, which I've just been speaking about, is because until we've forgiven those people who had that massive impact on our lives, that will keep recreating in our life in order for us to get there. And when I first saw this material, it blew me away. I kept thinking, how come we don't get taught this, And people have said to me, no, people get it when they're ready, which I do believe. But I also believe, because I've worked these principles with young people, people in their teenage years, and they really do get it. They do understand it. And if you know that in the end of the day, the end result is going to be your peace of mind, because all forgiveness is self-forgiveness. So all the time we're holding grudges, resentments, we're blocking the natural flow of love, which is a part of every human being. It's who we are. So the forgiveness is a very, very vital part of the process. So I started my journey having to work on forgiveness of my parents, who'd been dead for many, many years. My father 27 years and my mother 21 years when I did this work. So the other great news, it's never too late. It's never too late. And once you start doing this work, you'll start to see tremendous changes in your life. And then suddenly I was realizing that I didn't attract the kind of people that represented one or other of my parents. And that was great news. So many people go through their whole lives, as I did, looking for happiness and looking for it in the wrong place. It's almost like I rode a horse facing the wrong way. I kept looking out in the external world for happiness, in getting more money, in relationships, in being accepted, being liked, seeking approval, when really the place I knew eventually that I could find it was inside me. And it was that shift in focus, taking my focus away from trying to seek for that happiness, that peace of mind from anything outside of myself. And when the realization of that came, what happened is, of course, I stopped the blame game. And that, of course, many people will realize. They go through their relationships, you make me feel that way, you make me feel this, you make me feel that, none of which is true. What makes us feel anything is our perception of the situation. So when I started to ask myself, what am I making up about me as a result of this situation? So for example, somebody gets mad and angry and starts shouting at you or physically even hitting you or whatever, you make up, or I made up, that I was bad, unlovable, I was guilty, and all that kind of stuff. And really, that is what caused me the pain. And when I started to change my mind about me, then my life got better. And that's one of the things that I encourage people to do, is to start changing their mind about who they are and then watching how their life will change. So one of the first things I had to do was to start to sharpen my awareness of what I was feeling, my awareness when my peace of mind was triggered, when my peace of mind was disturbed. And as soon as I could, and it wasn't always in the instant, sometimes it took me a day, 2 days, 3 days, to realize what it was that was upsetting me. And it wasn't to do with anything outside of me. It was to do with what I made up about myself as a result of what was happening outside of me. And that's quite a big leap, and it takes time and it takes commitment. But once I made that commitment, it was amazing how I changed. There's another lesson in the Course in Miracles that says, I am never upset for the reason I think. Doesn't say sometimes, maybe, but never upset for the reason I think. And when I got honest and was able to understand that, and to understand that I am responsible for my emotions, the full set, lock, stock and barrel, and then I'm able to get the awareness of what's triggering me, and very often when did I first feel that feeling, which is when I first made up something about myself which isn't true. And it'll be the same for everybody, because at the core of every one of us is love. That's who we are. And all that's happened is that we've had that core covered up with all sorts of things. We've all got a story to tell. But in the end, I realized it was only a story. And because it was only a story, I could change what I made up about myself. And that's what I work on and still work on constantly. And the net result is I very seldom get triggered now. And if I do, I'm quickly taken to the place of changing my mind about myself. And it becomes a bit of a game. You can play a game with it, you know. And I kind of watch and see. One of the things that still triggers me is my favourite sport, football. So I actually use that as a means to do some more clearing. So whenever I get too uptight about something in the football world, I kind of do the same bit of work on that and bring me back to peace of mind. And it's interesting because I then find I can actually watch a game in a much calmer state and actually enjoy the beauty of the game instead of being so hooked up on winning and all the rest of it. So it can be used in any circumstance. So one of the most common mistakes that people make, and I did, is to actually deprioritize my own feelings, which tells me what's okay for me, what's good for me, what I need to do or what I want to do, over other people's opinions. And that happens the moment we're born, really. You know, we've been born into, you know, very well-meaning parents and teachers and people like that. But right from the start, when we first come in, our intuition is at its strongest point until we start to do this kind of work later in our life. But then what happens is we have parents or teachers who will say to us, doesn't matter what you're feeling, I know what's best for you. And this is in no way blaming teachers or parents, not at all. They've all come through the same process that we're going through. But it is a fact that what happens is we start to deny our own feelings and our own awareness of what we want and what we don't want. So one of the first things to do is to start becoming far more conscious about when you say yes and about when you say no. I mean, I had a thing people would say to me, I was so desperate for approval. You know, people would come up and say, would you do me a favour? And I'd be immediately saying yes, without even knowing what the favour was. And I had to really look at that, you know. So if people will start just taking time and spending time alone, going within, there's a great saying that if we don't go within, we'll eventually go without. And going within is when we can connect with our inner self, our intuition. our guidance. It's our internal guidance system. And it's how we feel that will tell us whether this is okay for us or it's not okay for us. And to start honouring that. And it's a great, great challenge at the beginning, especially because we're so programmed to please other people, and in the end we forget about pleasing ourselves. And that can lead to all sorts of unpleasant things: illnesses, disease, injuries, accidents. And when we start really checking in, saying, what do I want here? What do I really want? And of course, you know, we all have a desire to get on with people and accommodate each other's, you know, needs, but it should never be at the expense of your own true self. So if you found this little introduction video interesting, and it may be asking a few questions of yourself, what I'd invite you to do is to fill in your details at the end of the video, and I'll send you a free chapter from the book, The Secret of Intimate Relationships, that you can then look at and read at your leisure. And I know that once you've read it, you're going to be signing up to get the ebook online or the paperback. And that is going to help you so much in all your relationships, not just your romantic relationships, your relationships at work, with your family and everybody else. So thank you for taking the time to see this video today. I appreciate it, and I wish you every success in all your relationships.